friendly. Oh, it's Paige.
It's not a group.
Takes just a minute, guys, so just hang out.
We're a little early anyway.
Oh no, hold on. Whew.
That's why I come to the office. It's much easier for me than being home, so.
I think tourism and hospitality.
I'm one of the last Mohicans. I still have a landline.
No, you're not alone.
Yeah, okay.
We still have 2 minutes.
Right now, we're already live.
We are currently live right now, but we'll wait a minute or two before we get started. And I really appreciate people tuning in and getting their workspace ready so they can enjoy the information that we're going to get. I got to get myself lined up appropriately.
It's weird now, so if you turn the video,
Yeah.
you see.
We're just hanging out with each other. Such a beautiful day here in the Lynchburg region. Blue skies, the wind died down, thankfully.
Thankfully, yes.
Lisa, I was just looking. I got the hotel occupancy numbers for you all
Broadcast.
for the week from STR, about 24% this week.
My head is spinning. Wow.
It's actually, you were higher than that last week.
We are now live. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone to our annual Wednesday at 1 webinar. Today, we're really fortunate to have with us some really distinguished characters in tourism, hospitality, and the restaurant industry. And I really do appreciate it. My name is Megan Lucas. I'm the CEO and Chief Economic Developer with the Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance. Certainly when we talk about COVID-19 and the businesses and industries that have been impacted, first to be most heavily impacted is the topic we're talking about today, and that's our hospitality, travel, lodging industry. So I really appreciate everyone's time today. We're fortunate to have with us Craddock Terry, who's the president and CEO of the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. We have Katie Connor, who's a development specialist with Virginia Tourism. And we have our own Lisa Meriwether, who's with the Office of Economic Development and Tourism for the Lynchburg region. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
With that said, I think we're going to kick it off and get it started right away with Eric. Eric, welcome to our region via Zoom. And the floor is yours.
Great, thanks. I think on the screen it has me listed as Brittany. Obviously, that's not me, but Brittany works for us here at Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel. Well, I really appreciate it. You know, we are trying to do these sort of things all around the state because obviously the restaurant, lodging, and travel industries have probably been the most impacted of any industry around. I'm sure others might argue that point with me, but when you look at what our restaurant industries have done, earlier this week we released some numbers from the National Restaurant Association, and we have some state numbers, and that indication is that largely, for the most part, 78% of jobs in the restaurant industry have been furloughed or laid off as of now, and literally almost a $30 billion negative impact in the state over the last 4 weeks. So there's really, you know, hard to argue that there's another industry that has been as negatively impacted as that. On the lodging side, we get weekly numbers on how those are tracking, and I just got the occupancy numbers for Lynchburg today. Last week it was 24%. Versus prior years where it was over 70%. And so the impact of the industry has been dramatic and significant and has led to, you know, many layoffs. Some of those folks, you know, we've had some hotel closures around. We've probably had over 140 hotels that have closed, places like the Homestead and places like that. Not as much in Lynchburg, which is good news. I think we've held on a little bit better there without as many, you know, hotel closures. But certainly that's, you know, one concern as we move forward is closures of hotels and restaurants. There certainly will be some restaurants that don't reopen. We're just now beginning to hear of some of those. The further this drags on, I think you'll see more and more of that starting to hit for folks. Everybody is obviously aware of the SBA programs and the PPP and the EIDL programs that are out there. I would tell you for the restaurant industry in particular, that's been a little bit of a mixed bag. Many have received them, but they're a little concerned about that June 30th date they have to rehire because with no clear indication of when they can reopen or how they can reopen, they're a little uncomfortable with whether or not they're going to be able to get you know, relief on that to convert it to a grant versus a loan, and most of them don't really want to take on additional debt or whatnot. Hotels largely the same way. Because I don't think you'll see the rebound, the immediate impact of hotels opening, you know, back up or travel opening up. And, you know, it's going to start with airline seats and, you know, go on from there. So, you know, that's going to be a little bit of a struggle. The good news is it looks like, you know, Congress is about to renew funding for some additional funds with some of those really targeted at some of the smaller businesses. And we're excited about that because I think, you know, in many cases, a small restaurant may not have had the resources to apply or the ability to quickly apply for a PPP loan or an EIDL loan or something. And so hopefully that next wave, you know, and you know, at a federal level, we're also working on CARES 4, which will have some additional benefits and things for smaller business. But I do think, you know, you're going to continue to see, I was speaking to a reporter earlier today and he asked me how long I thought it was going to take to recover. I think it's a 12-month period. I think it's going to take, you know, quite a while. I mean, others kind of think if you open the doors, everybody gets excited and comes. But I think it's going to take a while for business travel to recover, group meetings to recover, people to feel comfortable going back into a restaurant. And we're working on some programs with the state and the Virginia Department of Health on how do you position that? How do you talk about, you know, we told people for 6 weeks, it's not safe to go to a restaurant or in a gathering place. So now we're going to say, okay, now it's okay to do that, or, you know, how does that work? So I do think that's going to be a good bit of a challenge for us is getting people comfortable with going back into those environments. So anyway, that's it.
Great, Eric, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And next we'll have Katie Connor, and she is with Virginia. She's a development specialist with Virginia Tourism. Katie, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Megan. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Eric, for your words and always the partnership with our organizations. So today I really want to share about what Virginia Tourism has been doing in our response to the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as what our reentry into the marketplace could look like as we approach that recovery phase. You know, a lot of our partners are looking to us in following our lead, so we want to be transparent with what our efforts are so they can best plan themselves. So really kind of jumping back since March 13th, the entirety of our staff has been working from home, which also includes our 13 welcome centers throughout the state. So that has been a big lead for our many partners with their visitor center staffs. And we know that they're kind of following in suit with what we are doing. So during this recovery phase, we have been focusing on gathering a variety of business assistance resources, as well as effectively and efficiently getting that information out to our partners. An easy way that everyone can access that information is by visiting vatc.org/coronavirus. This is where our developed and where we are housing the COVID-19 industry response toolkit. And this covers information, a lot of information that Eric mentioned as it relates to either the CARES Act, our industry research through Destinations Analyst or Longwoods, as well as our continued efforts when it comes to brand strategy and marketing. An additional resource that we certainly want partners to be aware of, where they can learn about travel industry best practices and other topics that are being discussed by partners, is through a private Facebook group, Virginia is for Lovers industry group, and I'll provide those links in our chat box here so everyone can access those. And it's really about just having that conversation still available to everyone, where we're not able to have that in person, but the Facebook group is able to have those discussions kind of firsthand. So as I mentioned, we are still in the response phase right now. For us, this actually consisted of us pausing our spring campaign, advertising campaign, and in the interim, we've created a short-term brand strategy. And this is supporting that goal of providing support for our partners, as well as continuing to engage with our local audiences, and still trying to keep Virginia top of mind. While we're not inviting individuals to come to Virginia, we certainly don't want them to forget about us. And as Eric mentioned, we're telling individuals to stay home, but when we reopen, we want them to come. So again, it's about finding that balance. So our program, it's actually, our campaign is called We'll Be Waiting. And it's really meant to meet travelers where they are mentally, physically, and psychologically. This has been a very traumatic experience for a lot of people. We want everyone to just feel that sense of calm and comfort that comes with traveling throughout Virginia. And this is a great program where our partners are able to actually personalize it for themselves. So an individual can utilize their messaging and create the We'll Be Waiting campaign. So that's one of the big pieces for us as a marketing entity, is how do we market without being promotional and self-serving. So we've found a really nice balance with this campaign. And then as we ease again kind of into that re-entry phase, we want that to be complemented by additional campaigns. So supporting the social distancing and stay-at-home order, of course, we want to be able to partner with our entities. So we had our restaurant takeout week. We continue to support Takeout Tuesday. We'll be coming into our Virginia Farmers Market week next week, and that kind of leads us into national travel and tourism. We're certainly one of the most impacted industries because of this COVID-19 pandemic, but we're also going to be one that bounces back the quickest, and we're very resilient, and we want to make sure that through our efforts of honoring what that spirit of travel looks like through National Travel and Tourism Week, we're giving partners those opportunities. So more to come on that. That is a national campaign, so we're excited about that. And Megan, you mentioned a little bit kind of what does it look like to come back into recovery. It's about inviting visitors back to our destinations. The travel sentiment research supports that travel is going to begin with that local travel, being with your family and friends. You've missed them. Everyone's, ready to get back and doing the things that they love with the ones that they love. So we plan to re-enter the market with our Share What You Love campaign. And that's encouraging the opportunity to disconnect from the chaos, even though we've been apart from things, it's still been chaotic, but really reconnecting with the authentic experiences that are around us. So this is where everyone, hopefully that's watching and listening and tuning in as destination assets, can kind of have that real opportunity to shine and be part of that comeback story for the community. We have, again, there's other opportunities. We're connecting continuously with our other state agencies, Department of Housing and Community Development. Eric mentioned the PPP. BCC is still accepting those applications, even though those funds have been depleted, and waiting for SBA to kind of say, hey, there are more funds, we can get those kind of rolling again, but BCC is continuing to accept those. So we encourage individuals to connect with them. And then of course, through the COVID-19 Industry Response Toolkit, we're continuing to update any grants or funds that are either being reallocated or having their deadlines extended. So again, another great resource to access those pieces. And then what better time to kind of improve or address your online presence. We have a great accessed website, virginia.org. Your local partners have your listings. Take this time that is not typically available to you during operating hours and improve those online presence. Make sure that you're updating your listings, make sure that those hours, if they are adjusted, are becoming available to readers as they begin to plan their trips into the coming months and year. So if they had a spring trip canceled, they may be looking at either a fall trip or a spring trip for next year. So making sure that you have that information updated. So really happy to be here today to share some of the efforts that we're doing at the state level, and really just encourage our partners to hang in there, know there are resources out there that are trying to find the answers for them, but also if there are questions, to not hesitate to reach out to us.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie. There's no more authentic experience than you can get in Virginia, and certainly the best experiences are found in the Lynchburg region. And I really appreciate that, Katie, very much for your input and what you all are doing to support a very vital industry to our state and our region. It's my pleasure now to introduce you to Lisa Meriwether with the Office of the Lynchburg Office of Economic Development and Tourism. Lisa, what do you have to share with us? Oh, 1 second. Okay.
Great. Megan, thanks so much for having me on. I'm happy to be representing the entire team from the Office of Economic Development and Tourism for the City of Lynchburg, and always a pleasure to be in the same company as Eric Terry and Katie Connor, so thank you. But today I really wanted to just kind of share more of a state of the industry update, a snapshot. Katie had mentioned, I think Eric did too, that this is changing week to week. So the data that we're providing today may not look like the data we're going to provide next week. But every week we do get from destination management organizations from across the state and updates from Virginia Tourism Corporation on what they're hearing, what they're seeing. And here are some of the highlights from those updates. So let's talk about impact. Of course, you don't need me telling you the top concern for travelers right now is the economic stability and the overall national economy, as well as the safety and well-being of others. I don't know about you guys, but every communication I'm having with anyone these days start with, how are you? What's happening? How are you dealing with all this? So top concern. For the meetings and events industry, near-term bookings, and for those of you in the hotel community watching today, you'll get that. They're continuing to be canceled. That first couple of weeks of March, when the bottom just dropped out of our industry, that included cancellations for meetings, conferences, and events for May, June, and July. There have been many events that have been postponed or rescheduled, and certainly this is what we prefer. However, there are many events that are being canceled outright with no plans to rebook. So that's been a tremendous impact to not just our community, but Commonwealth-wide. Just a snapshot, since March 1st, our office has reported canceled business with the loss of about 3,600 room nights, and that equates to about a $2 million in estimated economic impact. That's just to our community alone. And those cancellations started coming in fast and furious those first 2 weeks. It had Andrew and I really busy. But I'm happy to note, though, that a lot of those are working to reschedule for the fall. So impact number 3, summer travel. Summer travel is going to consist of close to home travel for most of us. About half of us right now currently, based on data, feel safe about doing fall travel. So we're kind of keeping our eye on that fall season, and around 45% of travelers are avoiding all air travel. Quite honestly, I'm kind of surprised that number's not a little bit higher. So additionally, the perceived safety of travel activities has improved this week relative to last week, with the top activities being non-team outdoor recreation, get out on those trails and walk, keep your safe distance, wear your face covering, taking a road trip, stay in your car, take that road trip, visiting family and friends, going shopping. These folks are, people are really, they're doing a lot of online shopping. Not me, of course. I would never, right? Staying in the hotel and eating in their favorite restaurant. We were talking about that before we started this call. I can't tell you how excited I am to see my favorite wait staff and my favorite bartender. Just get ready. Travelers are interested in increased support for local business. What that means is now is the best time to be a tourist in your own backyard. You've heard that phrase over and over again, but when those gates swing open wide, get out there, support your local restaurants, go to your local attractions, take in a festival and event when you feel it's safe to do so. We need to prime the pump in our own communities so that we've got some tourism product for our consumers to take advantage of. So response and strategies as we work towards recovery. And as you know, right now, we're not necessarily in that recovery phase. But if you are in the hospitality industry, please create value-priced packages. We're not talking about giving away your shop, slashing your room rates, meal prices, or even admissions costs, so you're not feeling those gains, but making it easy and attractive for someone to visit your restaurant before taking in a show or event, or perhaps building in an experience. Make it one price. Our office can assist in helping you identify ways to do this, and we can assist you in marketing these packages. You can check out some of their pre-built itineraries and lodging packages and restaurant packages now at lynchburgvirginia.org, our tourism side of the house website, lynchburgvirginia.org. And last, I'll say for everyone who plans meetings that's listening today, and that's just about every business and organization, plan your meeting. Do plan your meeting, just don't necessarily commit to the medium in which this meeting is going to take place. Don't expect live or in-person events to come back too soon. It's just not going to happen. But we encourage you to start planning for them. Plan your annual conference, plan your partner retreat, your sales team event, and focus on the content that can be delivered either in person or digitally. That way you can plan for both. But your teams are busy building out that content and moving forward. So, don't stop that from happening. The expectation in this industry is that we will start with hybrid events where the speakers come together in a central location, kind of like what you're experiencing right now, but the audience is remote. That way you're getting the energy of the speaker interaction, but without the risk of large gatherings. So face-to-face meetings, just as, for example, face-to-face meetings, I hope will never go away. It's hard to have a virtual beer with somebody and get work done. But they are a staple of the global economy. And a report from Global Economic Significance of Business Events shows face-to-face meetings resulted in over $1 trillion in direct spending in our economy. The study shows that in 2017, more than 1.4 billion participants from more than 180 countries attending a meeting or an event. So, this pandemic has been especially devastating to our industry, as Katie and Eric had mentioned. We're getting a disproportionate hurt and harm like we've never felt before. But while the tourism industry was the first industry to take the biggest hit, our industry leaders do believe that we're going to be the first to recover. It's an industry that drives innovation, creativity, personal, professional development, and what's going to be critical as we recover, as we do go into that recovery stage, is the economic development through tourism and meetings and events industry. So that's going to be huge. So the message today from me is, when those gates swing open, please, please be a tourist in your own backyard. Let's get our local economy. Let's lift up our restaurants, hotels, and all of our retail establishments and attractions, and let's get them primarily positioned to welcome our tourism consumers back into the Lynchburg region. So Megan, back to you.
Thank you, panelists. That was really all great information. One of the first questions that's come up, and Lisa, I think you can answer this, is are the greenways in the Lynchburg region still open?
Absolutely, they are. Practice your social distancing. I take advantage of the trails at every opportunity. And they've gotten a little bit busier, but they are certainly open.
Absolutely wonderful. What from each, for Eric and Katie and Lisa, you've touched on it as well, but what can we do as this community? What can we do to help, out of the chute for recovery? What's your piece of advice as a community, how we should support or what we should be doing?
Honestly, can you hear me?
Yeah.
One of my first recommendations, quite frankly, is and a number of communities have done this. Look at local either grant programs or in case Middleburg, for example, yesterday bought 5,000 meal vouchers to give to local residents to go to restaurants. Look at programs like that can really, and some places are buying meals for first responders or healthcare workers, or so it's and some of those can be done now. They don't have to wait until you're open. But any kind of a grant program that really helps those businesses in the short term while they navigate the SBA programs and the EIDL programs and whatnot are really going to be helpful to them, especially in this early stage. I had one restaurant operator who has 3 restaurants up in Northern Virginia who said that he had the best Easter ever because people, came and took takeout. And so whatever you can do, I think Lisa said the same thing, whatever you can do to support those local businesses is critically important.
I appreciate that. And we're real fortunate to have a partnership with our local newspaper, the News in Advance, which is doing just that. We've launched a gift card program, driving businesses and users to one location for those gift cards and those special offering. And that's a great strategy as well. Katie?
Thanks, Megan. Really, this is a conversation that we're having at the state level, both internally and then also how can we share information out externally. And one of the discussion pieces is, we know there are businesses that are remaining open during this time and being transparent with how are you helping to combat the COVID-19. So what are your cleaning practices? How are you encouraging and supporting those social distancing protocols? So a way to help people, again, we're easing back into what it's going to look like. And it's not going back to what were or how things were, but what's our new normal, and being aware that people are going to be hesitant and maybe even resistant to some degree, but they're first and foremost going to support those that they see are treating their staffs well, how they have responded during this crisis. And then also, how are they responding to keep people safe moving forward? So really considering those opportunities to share that back out with their audiences is going to be key.
Lisa, do you have anything to add?
You know what? I'm just going to mirror what Eric and Katie said, and just how I wrapped up my presentation piece is it's so important to take a look at your local community first. It's the only way that we're going to be able to get back. And as Katie said, what's normal anymore? What is that new normal going to look like? We're not sure, but get out and support your local businesses first.
I think that's really great. And Lisa, you said something about, when this is over, we're going to want to get out and see our loved ones. And, I'm spending a lot more time with my loved ones. So I think I'm banking on a girlfriend trip as soon as this is over.
I'm in, girl. I'm in.
With my loved one too, but I have a fabulous husband. If you're listening, honey, I mean no disrespect, but I think
you can also check into the Craddock Terry or the Virginian as well. So
thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
And we're real fortunate in our region to have top shelf experiences to stay local, and we really have some fabulous assets here. When we talk about hospitality and tourism, we think about those specific attractions, but sometimes we forget about the infrastructure that supports those attractions. So what about the part of the tourism industry that's the motor coaches? that's the transportation elements. You know, certainly we talk about airfare, but what's being done in this from the state perspective about those motor coach operators and those infrastructure operators that get tourists from point A to point B? Anyone?
Yeah, I could take a minute and talk about that. Our office is a member of Virginia Motor Coach and American Bus Association. And Katie and Eric, if y'all want to jump in, please do. It has been devastating to them. Absolutely devastating. I believe I'm correct in saying that that first round of relief didn't address any of the motor coach operators and receptives. That you're right. I mean, this is a thriving business up until about 6 weeks ago when the bottom fell out. So they are working hard to take a look at that with this second round, and hopefully there'll be some relief there. And really that's kind of where it's sitting right now. Eric, Connie, do y'all have any, Katie, any thoughts on that?
Lisa, I think, you know, you made a good point. You know, the thing about tourism and the same question I was asked earlier today is it's so interrelated. You know, if your hotel rooms aren't full, your restaurants aren't full. If you're not doing group travel, then you're not seeing buses come in. You're not seeing a bus stop at a restaurant and you know, fill up the restaurant for a while. So it is so interrelated that you know, as we try to rebuild this, it's going to be important that all those pieces start to come together as quickly as possible, including, you know, Liberty University, which is, you know, a major driver of business in the Lynchburg area. That, you know, things like graduations and you know, things can have a major impact on all of those factors. And so, you know, it's the local tour operator, it's the, you know, the bus business and all the things that go into that, even your Uber and your Lyft drivers and your, you know, people like that all need to recover. But they're, you know, they're all going to recover, you know, at the same time, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll make one other comment. I'm going to put a shameless plug in for one of our local tour operators, BRT Transportation, Brew Ridge Tours. The owner and operator, Josh Pratt, has done a fabulous job of taking a look at reinventing kind of the product that he is providing to his end user. And I won't get into that a whole lot, but I think a lot of people are doing that right now. They're really taking a look at, okay, well, this is how I've been operating my business. What can I now do that can provide a service to my consumers? And, you know, I've seen restaurants who have opened up pop-up grocery aisles. I've seen you know, things like that. I just read an article that was sent to me today about from my dear friend Liz Bryant about how hotels are, you know, selling their rooms a little bit more affordably for people like Eric and Katie and myself, if we want to rent a room for a day or a week to just kind of, you know, get out of the fray of what's going on and you know, my home. I'm expecting a dog to jump into the background any minute, but you know, those types of things. So I really give it up for these folks to think about what it looks like. Again, back to Katie's comment, what is the new normal? What do we need to be doing now to sustain our business model?
Thank you. What is, you know, as the pandemic started to unravel, what's been the one thing that has surprised each of you the most as this started to unfold?
I would say the speed at which this happened, it reminded me of 9/11, and I was in the hotel industry back in, you know, at that time, and literally things stopped overnight, and you know, travel stopped overnight. But you know, it didn't impact restaurants and the other things, but the speed at which it very quickly impacted, you know, all of these industries almost equally. All at once, and I don't think I've ever seen anything that, you know, the 08-09, you know, recession and going through that, that took some time to unfold, and so businesses reacted to it or moved, but you know, it felt much more like the 9/11, you know, impact than it did the 08-09, you know, recession entry, and so I think, you know, that shocked me how quickly that, I mean, I watched the hotel occupancies drop overnight. And, you know, got a call on a Friday, and by the following Wednesday, you know, basically 75% of their business had canceled or had gone away.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you where it really hit me is we are all running at Mach speed with their hair on fire every day to do the good work that we do. And when, to Eric, to your point, when this thing hit, it was the level of compassion that my industry partners, we were all reaching out to one another and just saying, how are you? So, you know, to me, that was huge. That was huge. You know, we just took a hot minute to stop and just say, oh my goodness, you know, how can we help you? We were giving our care and compassion in a most selfless way. And it's continuing now. I mean, we're reaching out to all of our business clients, you know, notwithstanding family and friends, but we just want to know what people are doing and how they're feeling. This is crazy times right now. So that to me, I think was, for me, that was immediate. I felt that immediately.
Thank you. Katie?
And that's a good point, Lisa. I think there's been elements throughout this process where even though we're just kind of removed from one another, we've almost become more engaged, our individual partners. But I think the adaptability, this has certainly impacted businesses across the board, but just the adaptability I've watched our restaurant community kind of tackle has just, it's been inspiring to see those, okay, this is, we can't do this, but now we have to do this, and we're going to tackle it, and we're going to come up with unique ways to market ourselves. We're going to come up with unique ways to interact with our audiences. And I've just been really impressed by how well they may not feel that way, but I think from a consumer's side, looking at them and seeing it also from this professional side, it's still given us content to be able to share out to our thousands and thousands of followers to say, no, maybe you can't visit them this way, but this is how you can interact with them. This is how you can still support them. So I've really just been impressed with that adaptability of those partners.
I'd say the other thing I've noted is just the change in the communication. Zoom meetings are the norm now, and you know, I had a conference call with the Federal Reserve, Richmond Federal Reserve yesterday morning, and I thought it was a Zoom call. So I got up and I got dressed and I was ready for the call, and it was not a Zoom call. So I could have stayed in my bathrobe if I wanted to. But no, I think people have adapted very, very quickly to that, and you know, I think that's got some long-term. You know, and as we talk about people that are working remotely, and you know, Katie does that, you know, quite a bit. Some of my staff does as well. But I think how you connect with people on a remote basis, I think has changed a lot in the last, you know, 4 weeks or so. And I think that has some, you know, has some benefits to us, because I know that our staff struggles with remote working, and so I think people are going to approach it differently now.
Yeah, I would agree. Eric, this question has come in for you. What are some examples outside of the Lynchburg region of innovative ideas from businesses, your membership and businesses that you see?
You know, I think, you know, I've seen, you know, you mentioned people sort of, you know, buying, you know, sort of like a farmer's market. Some of our restaurants have actually launched take out raw food. So if somebody wants to buy a steak from their favorite steakhouse or something else like that, that's really growing in popularity, because not everybody wants to do takeout. Not everybody wants to take it home immediately, but they'd rather take it home and fix it themselves. Some people have even, some of our restaurants with their chefs have even shown people how to prepare different things. So here's how I prepare my steak. So if you want to eat steaks like I do them, you know, here's how it works, or you know, other sorts of things. And so I think people have gotten really innovative of how to promote that, you know, their product and how people engage with it. And I mentioned the one up in Northern Virginia. You know, he's got three restaurants in the same county, in Loudoun County, and has built a really loyal following there. And I think that's really growing dramatically for him. You know, and that really is his connection. I think the restaurants that I see that are the most successful have a really good neighborhood connection, that they've got a loyal following of people. Lisa mentioned her favorite bartender, and that's probably the first place you go back to. I have the same, I understand. But I think people, you know, realize, you know, that they've got to be better connected to that. I think a lot of businesses are learning how to do business over the internet better, and how to make it easier to order your meal and do some of those things. And I remember the first couple of weeks, I tried to order takeout from places. It was a little clunky. It wasn't as good. And now it's getting easier and better. And the staff's getting better. They know how to, drop it off without any contact or anything. So I think there's a lot of innovation that's going into that. And unfortunately, the takeout stuff is filling up my trash can on a regular basis. So it's not the most environmentally friendly, but it's certainly a big business.
Well, you had me when you started talking about beef and steak. Steak is one of my most favorite food groups. So that's a great idea. And I love the idea of having local chefs, kind of prepare it, show you how they prepare it. That's a clever idea as well. Katie, I liked, you brought up some good points about preparing, what restaurants and tourism locations should be doing now and updating their digital platform. Are you all providing, or any of you providing any training right now to those sectors that may be in a holding pattern or have a little bit more time? Are you doing any sort of training to support them as we launch out of this?
So one of the elements, Megan, that we actually had planned to launch was going to be a portion of our kind of revision of our strategic plan. We've paused that for about 6 months, but we have gone ahead and we're going to be providing out some of that information. So while it might not necessarily be a training, it's going to be resources and tools that partners, either be it as a DMO partner or a business partner, can access and utilize to again, kind of continue to build their business. One of the things I want to kind of jump back to on, Eric's comments about innovation. Great time for individuals, again, to be updating their content. So as they come back online, are they preparing new photography, or are they accessing those assets that are going to be needed for new kind of messaging? So one of the campaigns that we've seen across the nation, one of the groups that we follow on Facebook is a national group. It was really talking about ways, gathering that information from visitors. Maybe they didn't have time to give a review last time, but encourage them, continue to stay engaged. So encourage them to share that review or share their experience, share their photography, so you can kind of come back when you're ready to open your doors again and be more prepared. So there's really just opportunities like this. We can have the conversations one-on-one with individuals, but for us, it may not necessarily be a formal training process, but we do have resources available for individuals.
Thank you. I might add to the people who are watching, if you have a question, you need to put it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So if you have your hand raised, I'm not going to be calling on you, but you need to put your question or comment in the Q&A box. And then I see now 2 people have raised their hands. Questions for the Q&A box. Lisa, and this is really for all of you, but it's directed at Lisa. We're talking about, we are eager to talk about recovery. We're eager to talk about resilient and getting out and visiting friends and family and our favorite bartenders and our favorite restaurants and our favorite steaks. But there is still the discussion about, how do we plan for recovery, but should we also at the same time be planning for a resurgence in this winter? And how is that entering into all of your conversations with your business sectors?
Oh, fair question. It's again, back to Katie's comment, what is the new normal? No one really wants to talk about whether this beast is going to resurge in the winter, but we have to. We really have to think about that. I'm going to respond by going back to what I had originally mentioned. Continue business in planning your meetings, keeping your team solid, plan the retreat, plan the annual meeting. Just don't commit to the medium. If it's got to be a virtual, fine. If it's got to be a hybrid meeting, fine. This is how we need to do this. I don't know. I mean, Eric had mentioned occupancy right now in their hotels is running in the low 20s. We don't have hotels that are closed right now. Everybody's doing something right now. And when we do start to the economy start to pick back up and we do see some of that travel start to happen again, I think we're going to learn to create that new normal of what that's going to look like. Okay, so if there's a resurgence in December, it's not going to have the shock factor that we had the first part of March. We're going to know what to do. We're going to know how to do it. And we're going to be able to pivot, stick, and move, I think, a lot quicker, even though I think what we have just been coming out of is pretty darn quick. But I think we're just going to go, okay, here we are. Now what do we do? What's next? So no, it's not business as usual, but I do feel there are lots of ways that we can move forward in growing the economy. All the comments that Katie and Eric have shared. So I'm not sure that that exactly is, what you want to hear. It's, it's not all rainbows and unicorns as we talked about earlier, but I think we need to click along and we need to continue with our business as usual, just in a different way. Eric, like those Zoom meetings. I hope for you lots of Zoom meetings where you get up and get out of the bathroom.
That's why I did the virtual background. I could show you. I mean, that's something I didn't know, 3 weeks ago. Now I know how to do that. But, the other thing I would say, Megan, on that topic is, as I said earlier, I think it's going to be a 12-month recovery period. And that resurgence, could be a big factor. I'm pretty optimistic. I think there is a lot of work being done by the drug companies and the tests and things that are going on all over the world. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that going on. But I do think it's going to change. I mean, more people are going to be wearing face masks and more people are going to be, staying 6 feet away and washing their hands more frequently and all those things. So I think people will be better to adjust then than they were now. Right. Even looking at takeout and delivery, people have gotten better over the last 3 to 4 weeks on how to do that. So I do think it's going to allow people to have more of an adaptation than this
right.
Quick hit.
I think the biggest shock will be, I'm a hugger, so it's hard for me not to hug. But I think after this quarantine, the first time the restaurants are open for dine-in, who's going to be the first person to forget to wear pants?
No.
Now, our pants are pajama bottoms.
And the other good thing is by that time we'll have toilet paper. So
this is true. Well, I really appreciate everybody tuning in this afternoon, joining us on this very important webinar. Tourism, travel, lodging, and hospitality are indeed very important to our resiliency, to our quality of place in our communities. And the Lynchburg region, being with our amazing rural ring and our dynamic urban hub, has a lot to offer in the travel, lodging, hospitality industry. So thank you, Eric and Katie and Lisa, for being here today. And as I wrap up, I just want to give everybody a few updates. April 23rd will be our Lessons with Leaders webinar. That will be with Jeffrey Kirshner from the Academy. We are doing Commerce and Cocktails tomorrow night, so you can join us for Commerce and Cocktails, the visual or the virtual version. Pancakes and Politics is our annual event we do with our legislators. We'll be holding that on the 28th. That will be virtual. For this and everything, you can register on our website at lynchburgregion.org. Also, our next week's Wednesday at 1, we'll be hosting Jay Timmons. Jay Timmons is the CEO of the National Association of Manufacturers, and we are real fortunate. Jay has also just been put on the President's Recovery Task Force. So we're excited that Jay can still find the time to join us next week, and Senator Newman will be joining us for that as well. Then we have on the 28th is the nonprofit webinar series that we continue to host. And that will be, topic will be about fundraising in difficult times. At the Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance, we appreciate everybody. This is a wonderful region, a great state, and we will survive this as we continue to say we are stronger together. Have a great day, everybody. And thank you again, Lisa, Katie, and Eric. We appreciate you and what you do to support your sectors. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.